Welcome to the first public unveil of the Nilu Hypercar. My name is Ina Salipanov. I am the co-founder and COO of Nilu27, a new hypercar brand that Sasha and I started recently. Since embarking on this journey, I've been confronted with this question a number of times. Ina, are you and Sasha insane? I understand where this question is coming from. This is an absolutely crazy endeavor. But the answer is no, we are not insane. It's just that with a sober and open eye, we dare to dream big. What we will show you here today has been living in Sasha's mind since 2006. It is based on one man's vision, but it is the work of a bigger team of industry experts. The reception in the market has been absolutely phenomenal, further justifying our place in the hypercar world. To tell you more about his vision and why it exists, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our founder and CEO, Sasha Salipanov.
Kind of have to pinch myself. This is a pretty ridiculous moment. Growing up as a car fan and seeing pictures from this ramp of some amazing vehicles, it's a true honor to be here today and to present this car to you guys. Couple of words about where we come from. I had about 20 years of experience designing cars, primarily sports cars in the industry. Went through a stint at Lamborghini where I worked on the Huracan exterior. I was heading up Bugatti exterior designs where I was responsible for the Vision Gran Turismo, Chiron, and the 2015 Atlantique. Switched over to Genesis together with my team. I built up Essentia concept and a couple of other things, and then most recently, I was at Koenigsegg and actually stood here with Christian von Koenigsegg unveiling the Gemera. So I was responsible for the design of the Gemera and the CC850. And all along, this is an amazing kind of story, and it feels surreal to even recount all these cars because it's pretty epic as far as journeys are concerned. But strangely, I was actually dissatisfied. The dissatisfaction came from the fact that I had an ambition to build my own car, and I had an ambition to build my own vision of what sports cars should be. I had that ambition from very early days, but it felt like the most insurmountable mountain at the time. And I really needed those 20 years of going from all these different companies and learning from the great guys and people who have done an amazing job and just being kind of a witness to how they work and soaking in some of their knowledge. I wasn't ready 20 years ago when I first had this idea, but also I feel like the world wasn't really ready because it was about to embrace electrification, digitalization, and all that technological stuff that we all see every day now. And the stars are aligned right now because I feel like there is a general fatigue on the market, which has to do with technology, the abundance of technology in the cars. And I was fatigued with that same feeling for many years prior. So the stars really did align. I would like to speak a few words about what it is that we're presenting here today. It's a real back to the roots hypercar. It's a car that does not rely on technology or buttons or interfaces or driving modes to give you the joy and the pleasure of experiencing it. It's a very back to the roots, very down to basics, but it emphasizes the things that really speak to our target customer and to our fans. It emphasizes the engine and its beauty. It emphasizes the exterior design and its beauty, proportions, perfect weight balance, and it also removes all kinds of layers of technological interfaces between the driver and the road. So if you can imagine the chain of command between you being engaged as a driver and the vehicle doing what you tell it to do, there's a lot of different electronic steps in vehicles today. And we want to eradicate all of them and go back to a manual transmission, go back to kind of the most direct steering we can possibly get with this tiny little steering wheel. We want to go into form follows function everywhere. So exterior, interior, engine bay, chassis design, everything follows the idea of no styling, no nonsense, no decoration. The realms that I just discussed, the exterior, interior, engine, and drivetrain and chassis, they have all different guiding parameters, and beauty takes very different shapes when it's applied to these different realms. But the idea of form-following performance and form-following function is really what unifies the whole concept together. My taste in cars is very, very eclectic. I love old-school Italian beauties. I love German Bauhaus movement. I love American muscle cars and hot rods. I absolutely love JDM. So for me, this project was always about paying some form of an homage to the legends that I was inspired by, but at the same time creating a brand new dish out of those components, coming up with something that is equally eclectic, but at the same time very, very fresh, and evokes a sense of déjà vu. That is another very important point for me, that when you see the car, you feel like an old friend whom you've forgotten, you're revisiting them, you're re-meeting them, although it's a completely new design. So these are the guiding parameters on the design side, but a few more words about technical specs and numbers. I honestly believe that the era of chasing after numbers is finished. I've driven cars at 225 miles an hour on German autobahns. I never wanted to add another 100 miles an hour to that. It's scary. For those of you who have done that, hats off, but it is pretty scary driving at that speed. And when you consider cornering at 3.5 G, I was in cars that get close to 3G cornering. It's terrifying. I cannot imagine selling a vehicle today and promising our driver that they'll be able to corner at 5.5 G. We all see what Formula One drivers go through in terms of their training routine before they can approach those sorts of cornering performances. And last but not least, 0 to 60 acceleration. Well, a Tesla can beat pretty much anything out there today and still be more boring and mundane than a Mazda MX-5. So really, the numbers themselves tell only half the story. They have to be amazing, they have to be respectable, but it's the joy and the pleasure and the thrill of driving that we want to achieve, not necessarily a standout number on its own. Having said that, the numbers are, in our vehicle's case, very, very impressive. 1,200 kilos weight, 1,070 horsepower from our bespoke, brand new developed engine. 0 to 60 time, driver dependent. It's really about how well you can work the clutch and how well you can manage your shifts and how much traction you can get out of those tires on a particular day and on a particular tarmac that you're on. Driver dependent, so putting driver back in the driver's seat. Watching all these different videos of cars doing their drag strip runs and the drivers being confused in settings and modes. We have no settings and modes. There's just the clutch pedal in the first gear. You engage it and you go ahead and extract as much performance out of this thing as you possibly can. And it also gives you room to grow, because as you get more intimate with the car, if you collect your experiences, if you go from track day to track day and driving it, you will get better and your performance will get better, and it will be endlessly rewarding to experience that level of kind of joining one with the vehicle and merging with it and becoming more intimate with it as you go along. Very last but not least, I saved the best for last. There are car companies out there that are pursuing this kind of analog vision. We bring a very different statement to the table. Countach is very important for us, not in terms of the styling of the car, but for the meaning of that word. It means holy shit. And this is an important parameter of designing a hypercar in my mind. The first emotion should be holy shit. Everything else comes later. So hopefully you guys experience the holy shit moment, and we're about to take the covers off now. Yeah, that's the right reaction for it. So I'm actually one of those people who hates describing cars. I don't like to talk about design. So please take your time, look at what you're seeing here, try to spot the areas that I was talking about with regards to beauty taking different forms and different shapes when it comes from exterior to the interior, from the interior to the engine bay, to the chassis design. Form follows function, takes completely different shapes when applied to all these different realms. Enjoy the car. We hope to be back here many years in the future. This is just our first step on this amazing road, and thank you all for being here. Last but not least, we have posters for everyone, absolutely free, so please pick them up. They're over there, right on that, there's a roll there and there's more, so don't leave without one. And thank you all for being here. I'm blown away. This is the most scenic backdrop, the most legendary backdrop, and to have our new creation here on this storied grounds means a lot, so very excited.
Hi, I'm Nelson Hotley from Hotley Engines in New Zealand. We've been responsible for the engine in the back of the Nilu, which has been probably the coolest project we've been involved with today. Pretty much had 100% design freedom on the motor, which is awesome. It's what we've always wanted, our own autonomy, and Sasha had a little bit of a wish list, and it's been just phenomenal so far. It's such a cool project. The car is awesome.
What country did you grow up in?
All over the place. I was born in Soviet Union. I lived in Georgia, which is south of Russia. I moved to Moscow when I was 10 years old, 9 years old. Moved to the States at 17 to go to Art Center College of Design and study car design. Graduated, moved to Germany with my family, married my then girlfriend, my wife, Ina. We moved to Germany, spent 18 years in Europe between Sweden, Italy, and Germany. Worked a lot in Korea as well with Genesis. Finally back here in the States for our own business.
So predominantly motorsport, because there's only so many opportunities in the hypercar market, and yeah, we do a lot of race engines for high-end motorsport in New Zealand, a little bit in Australia, a bit of stuff gets shipped to America and Europe. We've been really working hard to break into this market.
I loved racing, I loved Formula One. Those things were the most fascinating for me. Road cars I always liked, but racing cars always took, my heart was there with the racing cars, yeah.
When Sasha came to me and showed me his project and what he was trying to do, I knew that now was the time to put our own actual engine. I really pushed that it had to be a bespoke motor. He was keen on that. We'd been sort of working on it in the background for quite some time, but just it's always a risk. You spend a lot of money on development, who's going to buy it?
So you've designed for Bugatti and Koenigsegg.
That's right.
Lamborghini, all these major brands.
Yes.
And in the back of your head, working for these companies, you've always wanted to build
Yes,
this.
and I kept building it at home nights and weekends, and I do a lot of my own CAD work, so I drew the car in CAD many times over and over until we got to this point.
So it's a V12. 6.5 litre. It's got a really large bore, a really short stroke, up to a point. There's a point where that becomes unmanageable, so it's not quite Formula One bore stroke ratio, but it's a lot of inspiration from early 90s Formula One cars. It's what I grew up watching, and I just love the engineering of them, with utilising modern technologies to manufacture it more efficiently. It's so much easier to put something new and unique into the market now than it was 20 years ago with the technology we have at our fingertips. So just being able to embrace that has meant that we've actually been able to do it with such a small team. I've got an awesome team of guys in my business, and we're all super passionate about what we do. So 6.5 litre, 4 valve per cylinder, pretty standard for a modern engine, 4 valve per cylinder, 4 camshafts on the top. Hot V, so the exhaust is exiting out the centre. That's really, I think, the crown jewel of the motor. The entire exhaust system, it's about that long, is 3D printed. So it's 3D printed in Inconel. It's a big piece of printing, but it's the only way we could achieve those shapes. And it actually afforded us some flexibility with the design, and there was a lot of effort got put into the artistic side of the engineering, because the engineering is important, but nothing irks me more than seeing a really high-performing piece of manufacturing that looks ugly. There's just no excuse for it. Nothing gives me more joy than the silhouette of a highly engineered thing still having beautiful curves, and that's sort of been the approach we take to everything we make, but this we were able to do it with the whole motor. Not that everyone's going to see the engine sitting on the floor, but I will, and I want to enjoy looking at it, so hopefully other people get the same joy out of it. Its performance is going to be good. It's going to pull a lot of revs. It's going to have really good horsepower. It's not going to make 2,000 horsepower, but it doesn't need to. 1,000 plus horsepower with a really well-refined NA motor is probably as quick around a racetrack as a 1,500 horsepower turbo engine, because you just have so much more usable power across the power band.
There's no turbo lag?
No turbo lag. You have a better dynamics, and the driving experience is always better. You can drive the car harder.
I guess there's no one road that leads to success. It is impossible to say just do these basic steps and you'll end up somewhere. But in my case, what I'm really grateful for is the opportunity to go to all these car companies you just mentioned and to learn from people who work there, the leadership and founders, and to contribute to them. But yeah, do a lot of studying and learning in my professional life before I embark on this very ambitious and challenging project.
And you mentioned the looks are important, but what about the sound? Does it sound like an F1 engine?
That's the goal. That we've obviously still going to have some refinement to do before we put it on the track and show everyone the final finished sound clips. But yeah, the goal is that it's not so much the mid 2000s piercing 20,000 RPM scream. It's not what we're going for. It's that raw sound of the Honda V12, or the Ferrari V12 was probably one of the coolest ones in the early 90s. When they start up in the pit lane and you can just feel the hairs standing up on the back of your neck because it's so raw, and the way they bark on downshift, it's such an emotional experience for me that I just want to transfer all that into the engineering. And that's the kind of sound we're going for.
My ambition was perfectly Bauhaus, form follows function. The form takes different shapes depending on what functions it's supposed to execute. That's why the back of the car doesn't look like the front of the car. Nobody's face looks like they're behind it does very different jobs, so it's kind of form following function is the main inspiration. Metal part, general attitude, you know, a bit of a rebel, a bit of a punk, right? That's what I'm getting from metal, and general disregard for authority and just doing what you love.
So did you mention the RPMs? How high is it going to rev?
11,000, yeah, which is a lot, but it's not a lot at the same time. If you saw how the valve train was laid out, there's a lot of room for quite a lot of revs, but just targeting a high RPM number isn't what makes the car fast or enjoyable. It actually has to be a power band that's usable. So yeah, we can always target more RPM, but it doesn't make the car faster.
And is this just for the track?
This particular version here is the track version. We're then going to do a homologated version after that.
And would the engine change for that?
There will be some changes, but predominantly it is the same architecture. We've designed all the homologation stuff into it. There will just be a lot of extra systems in place. Unfortunately for homologation, you've got to have radar sensors and parking sensors.
To get past all the laws.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I'm not going to profess to be an expert on the subject, but we're learning very quickly about the car side of it. Engine side is a little different, but they all have to talk to each other. So there's a lot more work to do for homologation, and it will detract from what, this is the most raw example of the car we could do, the one that's going to pack the biggest emotional punch, and we wanted to do that, and then we'll do a homologated version so people can then take at least part of that onto the road and enjoy it.
Yeah, so you didn't have a boss, I guess, for this project. Nobody telling you what to do. You were able to have more creative freedom.
I have many different people residing in my head. One of them is my boss. Sometimes he pitched an opinion and I would tell him to go screw off.
So you're just fighting with your own...
Yeah, you have to be the one to kind of give yourself boundaries and limitations, and you have to know how to think from different vantage points. If you just stick to your own singular vantage point, you don't end up with a well-balanced product. You have to have inner voices that speak up for marketing, for design, for engineering, for costs, for PR strategy, for all these things. You kind of have to have a mini department within your head. And having said that, obviously, Ina, my co-founder, and my wife, she's handling business topics and everything non-design, non-engineering related, so bouncing ideas off her. Plus, as I mentioned in some of my other interviews, we have a tremendous team of friends and supporters already coming on board at Nilu right now and doing a lot of the engineering and interior design and final surfacing and stuff like that. We also have partner companies that are giving us decades of their expertise, and it's a lot of tailwind we're getting from this industry, so very thankful for that.
Yeah, I would love to go into more details about the exacts, like the bore size, the valve size, but I think some of that stuff I'd rather sort of keep under our chest at the moment, because there's obviously competition in the market and I think we have an advantage somewhere. We want to keep it while we can. We
also have tremendous amount of interest from the customers, so we're sorting through that and preparing our next steps, and can't wait to fire this thing up and have it shoot some flames, yeah?
Can't wait to see it on the track driving around.
Same, I can't wait to drive it.
I'm keenly aware that I might wake up any moment, so.